To march as a Roman was to march across the world in nothing but sandals, not boots, not armor for the feet, just strips of leather bound by iron nails. To modern eyes, it seems madness, but to Rome it was genius. An empire of extremes, from burning sands to frozen forests, and one shoe to face them all. At the heart of the Caligae's power was the hobnail, a small yet formidable invention that gave the sandal its grip, its traction, and its unmistakable sound, a sound every enemy learned to fear. Because long before you saw Rome, you heard Rome. The rhythmic clang of thousands of iron-studded soles striking stone was more than the noise of an army. It was the sound of inevitability. Every soldier's first gift was not a sword, not a shield, but sandals, because Rome's strength was not in its battles, but in its marches. Even in snow, the Caligae ruled. Why? The answer lies in design. Each pair was a masterpiece of practicality, created not for comfort, but for endurance. Open straps allowed air to circulate freely, drying sweat and draining rainwater before rot could set in. A boot could trap a man in mud, but a Caligae could free him with a single step. Health was everything to a legion. Feet rotting meant armies rotting, and in the worst terrain, the Caligae proved Rome's best weapon. Cheap to repair, easy to replace, built for an army that never stopped moving. These sandals were forged for motion and discipline. Soldiers carried spare leather thongs and iron nails, repairing them by firelight at the end of long marches. For all their simplicity, they were a soldier's constant companion, made for the road, made for the march, made for empire. They could march wet, dry, hot, or cold, with no waiting and no weakness. The Caligae allowed Rome to move when others faltered. In every campaign the enemy's feet failed before Rome's, and so the sandal became not just footwear, but a symbol of domination, an unspoken declaration of endurance. From the deserts of Syria to the icy hills of Britannia, one design served all. Waterproofing was not about luxury, it was about survival. A boot would trap water and fester decay, while a sandal let it go. Soldiers could wade through rivers, march through storms, and emerge ready for battle. The Caligae were not just for marching, they were tools for Rome's vast supply lines. Feet were inspected as carefully as swords, for they carried the empire. A simple repair could mean another 100 miles of conquest. That sound, metal on stone, became the heartbeat of Rome. It echoed across valleys, through forests, and down the long straight roads that stretched from one end of the empire to the other. The first march tested not just the feet, but the will. Knowledge of proper lacing and fit could mean the difference between victory and a limp, between survival and surrender. Even in burning sand, the Caligae's open design spared soldiers from blisters. The enemy's boots grew heavier with every step, while Rome's grew lighter with each mile. In rain, the Caligae held fast where others slipped, their hobnails biting into slick rock and mud. A day's march ended not with relief, but with readiness for the next. Layers of leather, stitched and nailed, made them both strong and flexible, tough enough for battle, yet pliant enough to adapt to the soldier's stride. Every pair was handmade, built to fit, built to last. From messenger to centurion, sandals kept Rome moving. Even their footprints left a mark of discipline, each stride measured, each impression a reminder of order. To their enemies, those prints meant fear, a silent message that Rome was coming. Even the Alps could not freeze the Roman march, and wherever Rome stopped, the world listened. Order was Rome's armor, and even rest was a preparation for the next day's march. Every soldier was also a craftsman, for his survival depended on it. He knew how to mend leather, drive nails, and make his sandals last another campaign. A boot would drown in mud and water, a sandal would breathe and dry. Rome's march could not be stopped by mud, marsh, or flood. From iron to leather, each part of the Caligae was a piece of history, small, practical but vital. Every mark told the story of conquest. Even warriors found comfort in the simple sound of leather crackling dry beside the fire, and when orders came, sandals carried them to the ends of the earth. Their grip could conquer mountains, and their design could endure seasons. This was no accident. It was centuries of adaptation, lessons refined through countless campaigns. When speed meant survival, sandals gave wings to their feet. The right footing could win a war before the first sword strike was ever made. Every scar was a map of Rome's borders, carved by the souls of its soldiers. Prevention was the first rule of the march, and the open design kept them cool, even under the empire's harshest skies. These roads and these sandals built an empire together. The sound was not noise, it was intimidation, and as long as they marched, Rome would stand, from forest to fortress, one step at a time, and where they vanished, legends began. In the heat of the Sahara, boots would suffocate the foot, sandals gave it breath. Every creak was a reminder. Comfort meant survival. They knew the desert would not forgive slow feet. And yet the same sandals that crossed scorching dunes also braved the frozen lands of Germania. Adaptation was their hidden armor, a quiet innovation that turned weakness into endurance. Even in ice and snow, their grip did not falter. The iron nails embedded in their soles bit into the earth, keeping soldiers upright when frost or mud tried to claim them. Sandals carried the weight of war, season after season, campaign after campaign. Their design was simple yet born of genius, a perfect balance of form and function. They were made not for vanity, but for victory. Repairing them was as vital as the march itself, and every soldier knew how to mend the leather, replace a nail, or tighten a strap. They treated their sandals as they would a sword, with care, precision, and respect. With every step, the Caligae kept Rome from slipping into defeat. Every mark etched into their soles told the story of a campaign, a road, a victory. Some lessons were written, not in words but in blood. Knowledge of endurance, of movement, of survival. These were passed down from veteran to recruit, step by step, mile by mile. Sandals had marched with them from sunrise to the gates of night. Road and sandal, two inventions that together shaped an empire. One carried men forward, the other carried their weight. When they wore thin, Rome replaced them, never the design. Simplicity was their strength. Each step was an act of war, a declaration of power, and some who marched never returned to camp, their footprints fading into history. They walked into shadows and built an empire from them, leaving behind not monuments but trails. In the mud, boots would cling and pull a man down. Sandals let go. They shed water as easily as sweat, never holding on to what could burden them. Each nail beneath the sole was a box grip until the very end, anchoring the foot against stone or soil. On slippery ground, they held firm where others would fall. Flexibility was their silent ally, a gift that allowed Rome to march where no other army could. The sandals made soldiers, and soldiers made Rome. One could not exist without the other. They never left a soldier's side, even in sleep. After battle or rest, they remained close, ready for dawn. Every new day began with a strap and a step, a ritual of preparation and resolve. Boots would drown in rivers and rain, but sandals swam through both with ease. The leather, like the men who wore it, survived through care and discipline. Some marched thousands of miles before their sandals gave out, worn thin by victory and hardship alike. Entire trades and workshops thrived because of them, cobblers, tanners and iron workers, each pair a small testament to Rome's efficiency and order. Adaptability defined both the soldier and his sandals. They moved over wood, stone, mud, and sand without hesitation, their wearers trusting their feet more than their shields. Victory left marks that no rain could wash away, footprints that cut through centuries. The sandal could only do so much. The man had to do the rest. Even commerce marched with them, traders and messengers, officials and explorers, all relying on the same design that had carried legions across continents. Light feet, meant quick retreats and sudden strikes, speed that could win a war before the enemy even understood it had begun. A loose strap could mean death, and every soldier knew it. Discipline began from the ground up. They walked in silence, their sandals whispering softly against the path, a sound both ordinary and eternal. Those whispers carried empires. The same sandals that strode through deserts and mountains also carried soldiers through towns, past markets, temples, and triumphal arches. Even in war, repairs never stopped. Even in peace, they remained ready. They carried a man through more than battles, through years of service, through the long weight of Rome's ambition. One design, suited for every world, its details forged for eternity. Step by step, they climbed into history. To some they were heroes, to others conquerors, but all who faced them knew the mark of the Roman soldier, immortalized not just in stone but in the dust beneath his feet. Warmth for man and leather alike came from the same fire, the drive to endure. They honored the dead with what had carried them in life, for sandals were a soldier's truest companion. Even at sea, when marching decks replaced roads, the spirit of the march continued. The dawn belonged to those who could walk to it, and Rome always did. 2,000 years later, their story still walks. This was the footprint of an empire. They walked through dust, snow, blood, and time, and so the empire marched on open feet. Because in Rome, the journey was as mighty as the conquest. This was the story of the Caligae, the sandals of Rome, and the sound still walks in history's halls.